What tales of adventure and daring must earlier have been told as sailors and navigators, practical men of the world, gambled their lives on the mathematics of a scientist from ancient Alexandria.
Hello and welcome. Today's a special day. We actually have our first sponsor on this channel, which I'm super happy to announce. But before I do that, I want to let you know I'm not one of those people. I'm not going to do the sponsorship at the start of the video or anything, and I'm not going to do a simple ad read. I want to tell you what this video is about so you at least know why you're here, and maybe at the end we'll get to the sponsorship. But today isn't about me getting a sponsorship. I added a new decoration, and it's something I found in some of the old artifacts. I wanted to share a little bit of when I was younger, because, I mean, right now I'm getting compared to a cult leader, which, thank you. Oh, geez. You know, but when I was younger, I mean, I feel as if I still had the same curiosity about the world, and it's kind of hard to jump from being 31 back to, I think that was, what, 4th grade? So let's go ahead and move in steps. So first, I guess I'll announce Nuka-Cola brought today's episode for you. That's the Crystal Flat Edition. It actually, believe it or not, is served out of every tap from any municipality across the world. And you might be thinking to yourself, that red cup looks like you might have procured it from a restaurant. Well, first off, shut up. No. Shut up. I got it as a gift from a friend, and where he got it is none of your business. But our rules say nothing about taking from restaurants. And if you're going to say, oh, what about be kind to others? Remember, people who own businesses, we're middle class and below. People who own restaurants, what do we feel sorry for them? When you take a cup from a restaurant, you're not diving into the pockets of the waiters and waitresses. That's the person who's running the business. When you take a cup, you're taking from that pocket. And when they say, oh, well, we're going to just use that to justify paying our staff lower wages, you know what you do? You take more cups. And so that was pretty recently, but that's not the only time I've found myself in a pickle about what to do with an item at a restaurant that I really wanted. Where I come from, pho is a very popular dish. A lot of restaurants popped up with it around the time I was in high school, and I remember pho was my first time seeing plastic chopsticks. Now I know I said I stole the push pop, and that was it. And sometimes when you see something like plastic chopsticks, it's not a real thing. It's what, like a extruded piece of plastic? Like, that's not, you can't look at a plastic chopstick and be like, oh, you're really putting them out of business by doing that, Chloe. It's not the same thing. There's a difference, okay? Cups, maybe. I don't know. You're talking about like 20 cents a cup if you're buying in bulk for a restaurant. And if you're paying more than that, then where has technology gotten us? How has our labor somehow expanded to a point where you can't make things at a reasonable price to be considered consumable so that you can offer the courtesy of giving things to your restaurant goers? I mean, there was a time when my father and I were driving from Georgia to Washington, and we were at a Shoney's, and they had ketchup bottles with Shoney's written on them, and we thought it was the coolest thing because we saw that in Rick and Morty. And so we left the Shoney's with a souvenir. I mean, what are they gonna do? Stop us on the way out? Hey, you paid for your meal. It's a ketchup bottle. We just took a little bit more ketchup than they were thinking we'd take. And when you take a cup to go, it's not stealing. It's a to-go cup. It's compliments of the restaurant. And you know, that's the benefit of going to places that are run by people who are upper class, is because what are they gonna do? Call the cops? Like, I'll be out of the parking lot before the cops get there. Anyway, so taking the plastic chopsticks in high school, oh goodness me. And I think this actually will slingshot us back to exactly where we need to be. In third grade, there used to be a book fair that I would go to. I remember borrowing $15 to get a Roller Coaster Tycoon game. It was the first one, actually. That was a good game, by the way. But I would take little bottles of paint from the place, and I would pay in the library bucks a certain amount, but the amount never was accurate because I was always focused on trying to get the paint out of there without being noticed. Kind of like I'm trying to open this notebook so I can share something else with you. And it's interesting that when you examine like myself at a young age, I was fascinated with the idea of being an artist when I was young, but I never really had the technical ability for it. And if I were to consider myself a YouTuber, I'm not actually a YouTuber. I would prefer the term broadcaster, because you got newscasters, but I'm a trans woman, so you call me a broadcaster, huh? Anyone? Anyone? No? YouTube is broadcast yourself, though, and broadcasting feels much more akin to what I do than making chopped up videos where I try and teach you something or sell you something. I mean, again, I'm not actually sponsored by Nuka-Cola, if you couldn't catch. I just don't understand why we go through 30-second ad reads in YouTube videos and act like that's not just as intrusive as advertisements were when we used to watch TV. And part of the benefit of being on a platform like YouTube is supposed to be that we're supposed to have ingenuity and innovation in how we broadcast ourselves. I mean, the movie Fight Club had corporate sponsorships, but you don't necessarily get that so much as you get the anti-corporate messaging from the movie. And that's something that's really funny to look at and examine. But when you watch a YouTuber give out a 30-second ad read without any of their personality, it almost feels as if, why am I watching this person read out some scam business? Because I don't know if you've noticed, but every time someone is selling things on YouTube, it oftentimes turns out to not be that reputable of a brand. Anyway, let's get back to the paint. Let's get back to the quote I was looking for. The reason I made a notebook out of my desk. I want to read you this quote by Andrew Loomis, because even though I'm not a good artist, a few months ago I picked up a pencil and I've been working on drawing, and every character I draw or every portraiture I draw, I consider it to be a trans woman, because trans women come in all shapes and sizes. We encompass both sides of the masculine and feminine spectrum. We have long hair, short hair. We have all sorts of different personality types. You can get a true look at all types of people if you only were to look at trans women, because of how we absorb the world and reflect it back. It's something interesting that I don't see commented on a lot, and I'm sure the same applies to trans men. I just am speaking from my experience, so please don't take that the wrong way. The interesting quote I wanted to share, though, is by Andrew Loomis, and he says, "It is the interpretation and process of individual conception that is art and that has value. If you include all the literal facts and actualities, the result will be boring. It is your selection of relevant facts that will create interest. A sweeping conception carries with it vitality, purpose, and conviction. The more detailed and involved we get, the less forceful and powerful is our message. We can take a compass and draw a circle perfectly, but we have left no trace of ourselves in what we have set down." And I love this quote. I think that it's almost timeless, almost as timeless as something like Cosmos by Carl Sagan. One of these pieces that just lives through time. And when you hear it, it strikes you in a way that carries with it a profound meaning. And I really enjoyed that quote. Anyway, after third grade, I was in the fourth grade, and now we are to the story. So I went to a science fair in fourth grade, and you might imagine a lot of people are doing rock candy volcanoes with baking soda and vinegar. Well, my setup was a piezoelectric starter from a barbecue starter that you push the button and it arcs a spark between the two wires, and I would take various things and put them between, and I had this big trifold board, and I remember after school working so hard on this, for weeks, you know. I didn't play my Pokemon at all. I would go home and work hard on putting things between this and imagining new things to put between it. What is an insulator and what is a conductor? Fourth grade me was on the case, and little Chloe was gonna find out. There may be a video in my dad's archives of me walking around with a lab coat on, which is I was adorable as a child. I'm sorry for the adult I grew into, but holy cannoli, you should see me. And the sort of way in which I approached this science fair, I was in a new school, in a new environment, and I had no idea what to do. But in my household, we had these fun little barbecue starters that my dad would get from his work, and we'd shock each other with them. And then when it came time for the science fair, it came to, well, what is it that when I'm touching one of my brothers and I shock myself, they feel it? What measures that? And that curiosity about the world. And I just really wanted to share that story because I think everyone tells me to stay away from children. So if you could all pass on to any kids you come around to be curious about the world, to stoke that feeling of wonderment and sort of passion about how big the world is, we don't have to live narrow-minded lives. In Cosmos, Carl Sagan talks about how thousands of years ago they had all these discoveries and they stored the information and then it was lost to time. And we, at the tail end of the Big Bang and humanity and stuff, in the last 10 seconds of the cosmic year, we have the opportunity to excel to new heights or collapse inward and go at war with one another. And I mean, again, you're free to believe whatever you want. Keep in mind how those beliefs affect others. Being kind to others doesn't mean you're not allowed to take cups from restaurants and give them to your friends, especially if your friends are like big fans of kleptomania and like the idea of taking from people without any sort of recourse, especially when it's something inconsequential. If you ever want to get me a gift, I can tell you exactly how to get it, but I can't tell you what to get. Anyway, thank you all for joining me. This has been a little bit more personal of an episode, but little Chloe lore for you. You know, I share a lot about the Navy. I just wanted to share something that's kind of lighthearted. I won the science fair, of course. I mean, I got judges, people, everyone was shocked. They would stick their finger between these two wires and shock themselves and go, holy cannoli, this fourth grader did what? And meanwhile, my dad's in the corner, and I'm pretty sure he helped out quite a bit. I was a fourth grader. I know how to put things between the wires, but setting up a box with a piezoelectric barbecue starter, I feel like that's a little bit outside the range of things I knew how to do. I'm pretty sure we drilled into the box too in order to mold it. Anyway, that's beside the point. I have a lot of good memories and good times, and I think that we need to sort of inspire passion about education because it's a fascinating world we live in. And if we get caught up believing that we have the best view of the world because our experience teaches us, let's look at the experience of the hundreds of thousands, the millions, the billions that went before us. We don't have to reinvent the wheel, and yet so often we do. And what you get is YouTubers reading out ads instead of going, oh, God. Nuka-Cola Crystal Flat. What a wonderful beverage. Anyway, I'm Chloe Nolan. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good one. Bye.
In Alexandria at that time, there lived a man named Eratosthenes. One of his envious contemporaries called him Beta, the second letter of the Greek alphabet, because he said Eratosthenes was second best in the world in everything. But it seems clear that in many fields, Eratosthenes was alpha. He was an astronomer, historian, geographer, philosopher, poet, theater critic, and mathematician. He was also the chief librarian of the great Library of Alexandria. And one day, while reading a papyrus book in the library, he came upon a curious